All right, welcome back to MMHC. Everyone, give a warm round of applause and a warm welcome to Colette Ghunim. Woo!
Here. She's here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Wow.
We are so excited to have you. And boy, we loved watching your documentary about your journey, your family. So, nice, easy question for you to start off with. How did you get into filmmaking?
Yes. Well, thank you again for having me on this podcast. And I'm really so grateful and honored because the topics that you all cover are just like so directly aligned with the film. So I'm super excited to get to dive in. So I started with filmmaking actually through my father, who was a wedding videographer. And so I was always around cameras and editing growing up, but I never thought of it as a career until I went to work at my first film festival in college. And going to a film festival and watching all these incredible documentaries, specifically that immersed so deeply in different people's stories from around the world and getting to meet the filmmakers, I was absolutely so inspired by the power of film and its ability to do social change work too. So that was the starting point. And then I went straight in as like, okay, I need to learn how to do this myself.
Hell yeah. Justin and I got to see the film. One of the cool parts about you sharing, like you got inspired, like with your dad, was that you mentioned that he filmed like a lot of quinceañeras. I'm Mexican. You're part Mexican. I was like, fuck yeah, that's cool as fuck. Like, that's super cool. It made me feel right at home, and I appreciated just kind of the little clips from like previous quinceañeras in it. So I'm like, wow, they haven't changed that much in all these years. It's all the same thing. So super cool. I thought that was awesome. I just when was it? Last year? 2 years ago? I've been to a quinceañera recently, two in like 1 year. I'm like, yeah, this is all the same thing. I love it.
Wow.
This is great.
Wow.
I guess tell us a little bit. Like your documentary is titled Traces of Home.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about it, and then I have a super cliche question that I'll ask you after. But just I know we introduced you in the beginning, but just give us like the I don't want to say elevator pitch. Just give us your best kind of like little snippet to get our listeners intrigued.
Yes, as we say in the film world, the log line. I can give the log line.
Oh, it's good to know.
The log line. So, Traces of Home is my first feature-length documentary, and it follows the journey of me returning to both my parents' homelands in Mexico and Palestine to find the homes that they were forced to leave as children. So, it's really this exploration of trying to figure out where is home for myself as a child of immigrants growing up in the suburbs of Chicago and feeling that total disconnect. And then it starts to go much deeper, which we will talk more through around intergenerational trauma and trying to find home elsewhere. That's too.
It was super good. Justin and I both got to watch it right before this, and yeah, you're right. I will get to it a little later, but there's definitely some points where I'm like, my God, I'm like, I started watching it. I had hopefully don't tell my boss, but I started watching a little bit at work. I had some free time, and then I finished it at home. I finished it at home, and I was sitting in the corner like of the living room. My girlfriend's watching TV, and I'm watching it, and I'm just like silently like tearing up to myself, just like as I'm watching the ending of it. So we'll get to it in a little bit, but yes, it was a journey. It was my cliche question, like where'd you get the inspiration for this? Like, where did you decide? Like, because I know it was a pretty long process from like start to end. Like, where'd you get the inspiration that this is the direction you wanted to go?
Yes. So the first direction was that I caught the travel bug when I was in college, and I got to study abroad and got to start really learning about both my cultures, like in Latin America and in the Arab world, and yet could not go back to Mexico or Palestine because both of them were on the travel ban. And so I was like, I was adjacent to all of my culture, but never going back to my homeland. And I was like, wow, it would be so great to get to go back at some point and maybe like to make some sort of film about going back. And it was just like percolating in my mind until 2017 with the family separations at the border and the refugee ban with the previous administration and now current administration, that it just felt so imperative to share my parents' own migration stories, to talk about who immigrants really are. And that I felt so compelled to have my parents' stories because they were so similar to what had happened to what was going on then and what is still going on today too. Where my mom, she was a survivor of domestic violence. Her father was extremely abusive and an alcoholic. And so my grandmother took her children, my mom and her siblings, and crossed the border to the US and never returned back to Mexico. And then on my dad's side, he was in the Nakba in 1948 from the creation of what is now known as Israel. And his home was taken. They had to flee, and he also never went back since he was 4 years old. And so it just felt so important to say, like, okay, why do people come to the US? It's not just, you know, to have fun or like it's a new life, the American dream. Like a lot of people are coming here because they literally are running away from extremely dire situations. And so that's where it started. And then it unfolded into something completely different with much more layers.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that. I remember typing up a question, and maybe more of a statement of like, I'm going to butcher it, but it was something along the lines of just like, how can anyone watch, you know, your film, something like this, or see the stories of immigrants and why they're moving? You're right. It's not all just this like rainbows and butterflies of like the quote American dream, right? Like there's people fleeing danger and fleeing for their lives. And I just remember typing something of like, I can't fathom why people see this kind of thing and see these stories and still feel like, yeah, people like that don't need to be here, or like we don't need immigrants or anything in this country. Like it's just, yeah. And as the son of two Mexican immigrants, a lot of this resonated with me. So I appreciate you mentioning that, because I think a lot of people are just like, well, yeah, they're just coming here to take resources and blah blah blah, and it's so much more than that. It's not a black and white thing like people try and make it out to be.
Totally. Like who's gonna risk their life, like going through the desert, all of these things? Like there must be something real serious happening.
Yeah,
to have to go through that level of precarious situations. Like yes, I totally agree with you, Eddie.
Yeah.
And those trauma stories from your parents were so gripping. And one of the reasons I love the documentary so much is because as I was watching through and taking notes, I had all these questions, and all these questions popped up, and you answered them a lot throughout the documentary, which I think is a really good sign of a good documentary, that the natural questions that popped up, you were curious about them and you dove into them. So my question being, with everything that happened to your parents before this process started, before you started making the documentary, how much did you know about their trauma and what they went through?
Yeah, so I knew like the basics of their stories, that it felt like some far distant away fairy tale fantasy that never, it just felt so far away from my own life in the suburbs of Chicago that I was like, wow, that's tough. And then it became but I was like, it didn't register because I was just so focused on my own life as a teenager and all of the things. And then all of it started to really come through as I began to see what was happening in the administration. Really, 2017 was like a wake up call for me, that I was like, oh my goodness, this is exactly the same thing as what my mom was talking about, of her being separated at the border from her mom. Yes. So yes, that's when it was like, okay, this is actually very, very real. And then as we started to unpack more in the interviews, that I began to get a much stronger understanding. And also learning more about the occupation in Palestine was just like a lot of learning and unlearning.
Yeah.
One of the things I thought was interesting was your brother said something about like he didn't really notice at a young age that you guys were like Palestinian and Mexican in this like suburban area, right, in Chicago. And like kind of similar to Justin's question, like when did you guys start to notice there was like differences like between you guys and then the people that you were around? Like when does that really start to pop up for you guys?
Yes. Okay. So for myself, I can't speak for my brother, but for myself, I did grow up in first it was like a mostly majority white neighborhood in my elementary school. And then when I went to high school, it was more diverse. And so I befriended a lot of different people from different cultures. And so I didn't really think about making friends based off of my ethnic group until I went to college. And in college is where I discovered that many people were befriending people based off of their own friend groups, based off of their own racial groups.
Whoa.
And so like, all the white folk would hang out with the white folk, Asians would hang out with the Asians, Latinos would hang out with Latinos, Arabs would hang out with Arabs. And I was like, well, I didn't grow up with any, I didn't grow up with the Arab culture. I didn't grow up with Latinx culture. I definitely didn't feel like I fit in with like the sorority frat life at all. And so it felt like I was just like floating as this mixed kid that couldn't find any grasp of belonging in college. And that's when I really started to feel like, okay, I don't know who I am. What is my identity as a mixed kid? Yeah, it was tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about, so you mentioned like the social impacts it had on you, especially like at an older age, because I feel like, what is it, Justin, when our prefrontal cortex is more developed? That's like kind of around there, right? Like
early
somewhere.
20s for females,
Early
mid 20s
yeah.
for males.
Yeah, much later for males. But like, you talk about the social part. What about like emotionally, mentally? Like, what was that like for you? Like that realization that like, oh, there's like, okay, there's some differences here. I'm trying to navigate all this while still like also trying to piece your young adulthood life together.
Yeah. I mean, to be fully transparent, that was like the hardest time I've ever had in life. I really think college was my like deepest depression time, that I just felt so isolated and lonely and didn't feel like I fit in any group. And so that's actually what caused me to be like, well, screw this. I'm not even going to stay on campus. Let me go travel. Like, let me just go. And so that's when I actually found my belonging, was studying abroad in Egypt my entire junior year. And I felt like there was an awakening for me of like cultural roots while learning Arabic that was absolutely beautiful, and being in this culture that is so welcoming and just felt very inclusive, that it was really, really special. And so yeah, being on campus was a very, 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 very hard time, and without any mental health resources, that I started to struggle with like binge eating disorder and just like a lot of low self-esteem and low self-worth. Very hard time. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. That's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's hard to reflect back and look at the times where we're like, man, that was fucking hard. So we appreciate you sharing it.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
You had mentioned the binge eating disorder in the movie, but there wasn't much like resolution. You said that you struggled with it in college, and your mom also had mentioned that she had done the same thing.
Right.
Try not to give too many spoilers, but yes, did you know that she also struggled with that, or was that in the moment a big revelation?
So, I mean, my mom has always also struggled with like emotional eating and like food things. So I knew I could see the patterns in the family, but we never actually like really fully talked about it until that conversation where it was like, oh wow, of course, it's like this pattern of learning how to cope through unhealthy mechanisms that are not serving either of us has been like passed down in generations. It's really, really something.
Yeah. Also, before we continue, I mean, shout out to your parents for like jumping into it and like participate.
Yes.
I can only imagine how difficult that was, and just for both of them to push themselves and be trying to open and honest and transparent with you. There's a number of times your dad was emotional, and I can only imagine that I might just be assuming, because I know for me growing up, I didn't see my dad be super emotional very much growing up.
Right.
I can imagine that for you, it was like, oh man, like I'm not used to this. This is different. So I can shout out to them, because they shined in it. Just their vulnerability and their openness and their honesty.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like it was so clear that it was like an act of love for me as their daughter, that they were both like, we would have never done this. We would have never put ourselves in these travels. Like, there's no way we would do this to ourselves. Like, we're literally going on these trips for you. And then, of course, at first it was just about the trips of going back to Mexico and Palestine. But then when we start talking about like family dysfunction and the disconnect and all of it, that it's like we're putting everything out there, that I'm so grateful that they were like seeing. My mom was actually very, very nervous, that she's like, Colette, what are you doing? Like, are you just trying to like just put out our baggage out into the open?
Yeah.
Thankfully was able to have a lot of conversations with her to talk about the deeper why of that many families have a lot of healing that is needed. And a lot of families have a lot of issues, and that this is hopefully going to be a way for other people to see how that they can start to unpack their own family stories and patterns of whatever trauma, abuse, trauma effects that are important to unpack. Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the themes throughout the whole documentary, is that these generational traumas impacted your relationship with your parents, and you had the bravery to step out and do something about it. And on the show, we've done episodes on generational trauma, how to heal and how to recover from it. And you did it in your own way by making an entire documentary about your dysfunction. And that just was so brave. You put it all out there.
Thank you.
And especially because your mom had mentioned that growing up, she wanted to be perceived as the perfect family. Like no one could be out of the ordinary. No one could be seen as stepping out. So that was double hard for you,
Totally,
I am sure.
Totally.
So as an adult now, the whole like message with your parents was they were trying to find your home. You were trying to find your place in your home. Do you have it now? Do you still feel like you're not home when you're home, or do you feel home now?
Okay, that's a beautiful question. Thank you so much. So if it's okay, I'm going to zoom out even more about like my journey of like the arc of my learning in this process of Traces of Home, which leads to the where is home at the end of the day. So as I mentioned in the beginning, that the film was very much focused in the beginning around the political and the cultural disconnect of where is home as a child of immigrants, refugees trying to find home in Mexico and Palestine. And in the process of going into these places, I also started going to therapy for the first time. As we know, therapy will bring out everything else too. And so in therapy, the relationship with my mom and how much anger I had towards her, and like with her strictness and her controlling and her criticisms, it just kept coming up over and over again. And so I began to realize that I was like, okay, wait, there's something else that's here that's not just about the cultural disconnect, but it's the disconnect to my parents themselves. And what is this anger that I have inside of me? Where is it coming from? Why is she the way she is? Why am I the way I am? And that's also where I learned about the term of intergenerational trauma for the first time, and realizing like, oh, wait, there are things that happened to her that made her the way she is. And then it passed down onto me as well. And so what I thought that the film was then going to become this like happy healing journey with me and my family. And at the end, we would all become like best friends. And then,
please tell me that happened. I need to hear this.
There is a lot of healing that has been done. I will definitely say that. And I cannot change who my parents are. And I can't change so quickly who I am too, that it's very hard to change these super ingrained patterns of how we are at home. And so I realized that, yes, that maybe it wasn't me trying to find home with my parents either, because again, like it's not necessarily that we have to become best friends with them, but it's like learning how do we set boundaries and that kind of thing. So I went through that Mexico, Palestine, trying to find home with my parents. And then I was like, okay, well, if it's not there either, like, where is it? And that's when I entered into my own dark night of the soul, like deep, like dark bottom, where I really just started to question, like, what am I even doing here? Like, what's the point of anything? Like, the existential crisis of like, I really just felt like extreme grief. And it was through that I went through, and also in this time, I also went through a divorce, which was the catalyst of all of it. True. So it's a whole other thing, but it just like realized I was like, okay, I keep trying to create home externally and I'm not able to find it. And I had to go on this big circle journey to reach rock bottom to realize that home was never something external, that I had to find it by being by myself in my solitude and like find home within myself. And so Traces of Home is that full circle journey of me coming back home to self. And then truly it was my own spiritual awakening. So now I'm like also believing in there is something much greater than here too, outside of the material world, which spirituality is a whole other component that I think is very important to talk about. But yes, home being here within myself and then with the creator, if we believe in a creator divine as well. So yes, that is the full circle journey.
Deep. Thank you. Okay, this might like trivialize it way too much or make it too general, but I don't know. I think of like so Justin and I both specialize in working with like children and adolescents, and for me,
Oh,
I'm
wonderful.
mainly with adolescents, like just the high
Wow.
school age. And we talk a lot about like, our support people. Sometimes they know how to support, but sometimes only in the way that they know how. They don't necessarily know the
Right,
Yeah.
best way that
right,
works for
right.
us individually. And I talk with a lot of my students and my clients that like sometimes we have to be the one to like, we have to be selfish sometimes. We have to help ourselves, and we have to like put our needs first before we can really support the needs of others. So it just really makes me think of that, of like your whole journey was, I'm trying to find these external things, but there really wasn't in the end. It ultimately came down to you, which also is a lot of pressure to put on yourself, of like, I need to be the one to like make myself okay. But I think at the end of the day, like, part of that is true. Like, we can rely on our support people, but no matter how much they try, they can never always be there for us. They'll be
Correct.
the one, two, three few times that they may not be, even the best of partner family supports. We're
Right.
the only one that's really there for us in every single step of the way and every turn that we take. So I don't know. It makes me think of that, of like, you were able to ultimately find that you are the one that helps you feel home and feel whole, and to be able to kind of keep on moving forward with life. So
Yeah.
thanks for
If
sharing
there's
that.
something I can add to that too, is that like I think what is also something that I really realized is that I was trying to run away from difficult emotions for so long, of that feeling of loneliness, isolation, trying to use external coping mechanisms or external sources for that. And once I was able to start to feel my own feelings and actually face my own difficult emotions, now I can actually have even more vulnerability and intimate relationships with others who are also dealing with whatever grief or issues that they're having, that I couldn't before because I couldn't deal with it within myself. So it's actually like the more that I was able to go within myself to feel comfortable being by myself, is the more I can actually show up and see people more fully, which is so profound and beautiful in this like
Yeah.
journey back home. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
This might be tough to answer, and I hope it's okay that we talk about the film a little bit, or like some specifics without spoiling it. Uh, but you mentioned you guys went to Palestine, and you traveled there. This might be really tough to answer, but I'm just really curious. Can you walk us through any thoughts, feelings, emotions, like as you were waiting to go into Palestine, across into Palestine,
Oh
and
yeah.
there was a moment where you guys were being like interrogated? Like, what? That's all I got. Like, what do you feel comfortable sharing in
Yeah,
that moment? Because it was intense.
Tense.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so my gosh, the pressure. Yes. So I spent like 6 months before we even traveled, just talking to researchers, talking to people on the ground, like trying to figure out the best approaches to make sure that we would be able to get in, the best possible chance
Hmm.
to be able to be allowed in. And and of course that I had been doing so much work for so long that I was like, oh my gosh, like if it doesn't work, like the film, what will I do? What am I gonna do? Like, yes, it was very, very hard. And I was definitely feeling very nervous, a lot of anxiety and tension. And at the same time, once we got to the interrogation room, it was like a wave of peace just came over me, of just like,
Mm.
well, here I am. Like if whatever happens, happens. Like being in it
Wow.
was something shifted that I was like, okay, God, I have no control over the situation right now. Once they took
Yeah.
me by myself to go get interrogated. Um, the good thing also that was that it wasn't just me and my dad, which I think would have been harder as Palestinians. That I'm not sure if I would have gotten in if it was just me or just me and my father, but because we had such a mixed family and also my Filipino sister-in-law was with us, that I think it threw them off. So they're like, okay, yes. Like, I don't know. They're American tourists. Yes, yes. So it worked. Yeah, thank God. But
Yeah.
it was a trip. It's a trip.
Yeah.
Very hard.
Yeah. And what about when they finally, like, you guys were done and you guys were allowed in? Like,
Mhm.
what went through your mind? What were the feelings with that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Just like huge relief, just like huge weight off. My parents were waiting outside, so they also had no idea when I would come out, like how long it was going to take. Of course, we you know all the stories of people getting detained for a long time, and so we were all in a lot of like joy, relief to be able to enter Palestine. It was just like wow, really, really powerful, powerful moment. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. A catharsis, I am sure.
Yes, yes, yes.
You mentioned like spirituality, and you touched a little bit on this in the movie, how religion was your
Yes.
brother's avenue of expressing his spirituality, but you didn't go too much into yours other than just the whole feel of the movie and just the imagery and the art that was projected gave us kind of a sense
Mm,
of who you are, what you believe, lots of themes of birds and butterflies and flying.
mm,
If you could, if it's not too personal of a question, what are some of your spiritual beliefs? Like, what are some of the
yes.
conclusions and things that you have come to?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I can easily say that by the end of making this film, it feels so clear that I was never the one making this film. There's no other way I can describe it. That like the way everything worked out in its perfect timing of like aligned
Yeah.
everything, who we met on the way, how the neighbors came out, that it was like, oh my gosh, this film is like writing itself. Like this is
Yes.
absolutely insane. That that it feels like so clear now that like I've just been a vessel for this medicine to come through for both me and my family, but now for others too. That that again, that I went through my dark night of the soul, my own spiritual awakening, that I truly felt a divine presence that has been guiding this whole path. And even in while we were in Mexico with like the butterfly reserve and that kind of thing, like feeling my ancestors too, like I don't know what it is. Like I truly believe that there's some sort of greater power that we have a calling, and that if we follow the calling that we will be guided on the way to whatever we are meant to be doing. It feels very, very clear after going through this 9-year process. And and I didn't grow up with any religion. That my father was Muslim, my mom was Christian, but they didn't practice anything really like in the house, and so I was agnostic, didn't really think about any of it until going through everything and being like, oh wow, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I feel a guiding force in my life. And that has also been essential to my own healing. Like I would be very remiss if I did not say that having faith has changed everything of like finding my own sense of worth and value. Yeah. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. Thank you for
Thank you for
telling
sharing.
us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
Justin, you
it
had a
means a lot.
reaction.
I just want to say it means a lot for you to ask that
Yeah.
because I think a lot of times in like mental health spaces or psychology that we leave out spirit or
Yeah.
the higher
Yeah.
power, and of course everyone has different beliefs of whatever that could be, nature, community, whatever is that unifying force, and yet it is so important for us
Mhm.
to have that ability to surrender and trust for us to be able to heal and be in that mental health space. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. You're right. Sometimes our colleagues suck. Like they don't ask about the things that are important. Like I don't know.
We
I
don't,
think
but
people,
the colleagues
yeah,
suck.
yeah, we don't suck. But yeah, I mean, like there's people who like they claim to like have a holistic approach, or they try to like view the whole person. But yeah, I think religion and spirituality gets left out, like as kind of like I don't know why, but it just feels like it gets left out. And I think back to like my
Totally.
time training and like yeah, I was like in there, but like people, it wasn't like a huge thing that got emphasized
Yeah.
like for like intakes, for example. But yeah,
And
thank
it's
you
an
for sharing
essential
that.
component to a
It
person.
is, yeah,
Like if
for
you're
a
not
lot of
even
people it
talking about
is.
this, like what is the soul? What is the eternal self?
Hmm.
Like, wow, it's a missing a huge component. Like if we're only staying up in the brain all the time, like where is the
Yeah,
heart? That
yeah,
yeah. So thank you.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Essential.
Justin, I saw your reaction when Colette said it was like a 9-year process. There was
Yeah.
a time in the film where like you'd mention some dates and I had to like rewind back of like, did you really say that year? Wait, that's a long ass time ago. Like, is this? It really was like a 9 year, a
9
long
years.
process for you. Like, what? How do you keep that stamina? Like, what was that like for you? Like, just continuing to, because people see the end result, but they don't see everything that went into it a lot of the time. We got glimpses here and there because there were so many things that were filmed along the way that you put into it. But like how do you carry that momentum for that long
Yeah.
for this?
Yeah. So this is where teams and mentorship and fellowships, like all the things that um being in community is so essential to be able to get the baby to be birthed. That
Yeah.
it was a village that made this go through, that I was part of a fellowship to start off with to like learn how to write grants, how to make the trailer, how to get funding in. then doing a fundraiser to go to Palestine, having all the community fund that trip to go to Palestine, doing a Kickstarter to go to Mexico. Like at each step of the way, it was again, it was like I was being pushed along by a community that was it was such a blessing that I'm so grateful for, that it wasn't just me doing this.
Yeah.
So it felt like there was an accountability that I really needed as an artist and as a storyteller to be able to do the work. And then once I got into post-production, being with my editor for 3 years, day in, day out in San Francisco, like there was no way I was going to be able to do that without having her support. She became my therapist throughout the process too. Yes.
What a
Yes.
process,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool to hear that it was community funded and it's Kickstarter funded.
Yeah.
And have you shown this, I'm sure you have, to a lot of people in those communities that were a part of this? And what has their response been to this?
So we just had our world premiere in New York last year in November, which was so beautiful. And like my parents came, my whole family came, the whole team came. So it was like the most beautiful celebration. And then we won Best Documentary from like the Grand Jury Prize. So it was such a gift. So that was really amazing to get to be there. And then on Saturday is our hometown Chicago premiere, which I am so
That's
excited
awesome.
for.
Like this Saturday?
This Saturday. So if anyone is in Chicago that wants to come, yes, that's going to be the one where I don't even know. I think I'm going to faint. I don't know what I'm going to do. Yeah, it's going to be all the people who have supported from literally the day one beginning. It'll be very special. Yeah, and then we've had 5 other film festivals. I'm leaving to Maryland tomorrow. We're on the festival circuit fully right now, so it's been really beautiful to have audiences now seeing it out in the world too.
I saw
getting the
your
reactions.
Yeah, I saw your Instagram stories, like all the different places you're gonna go. Thank you for having time for us to squeeze us in between all of that.
Thank you. I'm very grateful.
Is there a way for people to see it if they're not going to any major film festivals?
Yes. So we are going to have our theatrical release in the summer into the fall. So that's also going to be in major cities across the U.S. And then we are streaming with Watermelon Pictures, which is like an incredible distributor of Palestinian films and has been doing a lot of amazing work. And so we'll be on their platform probably by the end of this year. So that's when it'll be online. And then on all of the streamer viewing, channels. Yes.
To share everything once it's available.
Thank you. That'd be great.
I have a couple statements that I wrote like back to back in our notes, but there was that one kind of moment, and again, I'm not trying to spoil anything for people who are watching, but that moment where the man kind of welcomed your dad back home and like shared a drink with him. Like what was that like? I mean, that's like you said, everything seemed to line up so well. I mean, over a 9-year period, I know there was ups and downs, but like everything lined up so well. And then for that to happen, like in front of you while you guys are there, like, what is that like?
What was that? Unbelievable. Yeah. So beautiful. Yeah, it was like all of us were shocked that we're like, wait, who is this Israeli man that's like being so kind and loving and saying, oh, this is your home? Like it just threw us off completely because of all the narratives of what we see of like who Israelis are, like, oh, everyone is just a Zionist and all of this, but that there was such a warm welcome that it like was able to break our own stereotypes and our own narratives in our own head. That is very needed sometimes, that it's like, oh wait, not everyone is the same, or like there's still a lot of compassion and humanity even on what we think is the other side. That was such a beautiful moment to like see these 2 elderly men together that like could have been friends in the Jewish quarter and the Arab quarter if the town was still there as it was before, which was, it did have like the Arab house, like the Arab quarters and the Jewish quarters, that everyone was together. Yeah, tough. Yeah.
And this movie is so important because right now, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's, a lot of craziness going on in Palestine, right? Like,
totally. Yes.
Obvious joke because, man, there has been so much going on in Gaza. It's been a very horrible time for a lot of people. I saw a survey recently that said for the first time ever, Americans are more sympathetic towards the Palestinian side than the Israeli side. And I think these stories of telling Palestinian stories is one of the big reasons why that shift is happening. Any insights? You don't have to have any insights, but any other things that you're seeing in our society of why that change is happening, why our mindset is starting to shift on this conflict that has been going on for lifetimes?
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, it feels very clear that the genocide in Gaza has woken people up to realizing that there is a level of violence and atrocity that we have all never been able to even fathom. Like, just literally just feels like pure evil of what we've been seeing on our phones, and like being able to actually see with our own eyes on Instagram and on social media, like Palestinians sharing these absolutely devastating things happening in to their families, like children, just extreme, that I think many
Yeah.
people were like, wait, what is all of this? And that um social media has allowed people to actually get a full view of the atrocities that have been happening for the past 70 years, that but at to like a an extreme degree. Like Gaza is yeah, unfathomable, the level of violence that we're seeing. And so I am so grateful that people are now awake, like have been awakened to the occupation, and like that it is an apartheid state, and that there's more courage to be able to speak out against the atrocities and the genocide going on. And I truly also believe that the pandemic also did something with that too. That like
Mm.
something with George Floyd, and like everyone um starting to realize like, oh wait, everything that we've been conditioned into of what we thought American society is and what we thought our government was is no longer under the veil as it was before.
Yeah.
That now people are seeing that like, wait, we're the ones funding the massacre of children. Wait, we're the ones that are doing this. That it's like, it's grief. It's like a betrayal. That it's like, wait, a lot of people were proud to be American, and now it's like, woo, this has been going on for a long time. So I think yes, there's a narrative change that's happening through the power of film and people's storytelling, and then Palestinians telling their own stories, having that access to be able to film things on the ground is, yeah, very, very powerful for that change work to happen.
It's hard because I feel like you bring up the pandemic, and I feel like the other side of it that I see is like people have like lost compassion for each other. It feels like it's so hard because it feels like there's both sides of like,
Wow.
I think part of the reason why the pandemic went in the direction that it did was because there was a lot of like, well, I don't care about other people type of like attitude with, needing to stay home and wear masks and just simple things like that. And so it is, I think you are right. I think there is more compassion. I don't know. I have such a hard time with our country. Justin knows this. It like there's some days where I'm just like, I fucking hate it here. Like, this really sucks. And then
Very
there's,
hard.
the people are like, well, just go somewhere else. I'm like, well, no, fuck you. I'm still gonna do what I want here, because I've earned that and I deserve that. But
Yes.
it feels like things suck here. Like, I don't know. I guess I don't know how much of a point I was trying to make, other than like, it feels like both. There is more compassion. People are understanding things more now. I think you're right, to your point. Like, people have seen what's happened over the last small chunk of time, but aren't fully understanding what's gone on for decades. They're starting to now understand. And I also struggle with like people's compassion towards others, maybe on
Yeah.
a more surface level here in our country, is also kind of dwindled. I don't know. I don't know. We're
Yeah.
somewhere in the middle.
Yes, maybe it is. It's like a both and. But I do just want to challenge one thing, that I feel like if we look at social media only, then it looks like everything is just like crumbling. Nobody cares about anyone. Like it is
Yeah.
Are we
terrible.
sure everything's not crumbling?
It is crumbling. Yes.
Yeah.
This is the end of the
Yeah.
world. Totally,
Yeah.
everything is burning.
Yeah.
100%. And when I go to the grocery store and I see some person helping somebody with their,
You're
groceries, or I
right.
see
Yeah.
somebody walking and somebody comes and grabs their hand, I'm like, wait, oh wait, there is still people out there that still have their humanity intact.
Yeah.
That I think a lot of times it's very easy for us to go straight into the fear brain that, oh, everything is doomed, and that's what they want us to become, so that we don't feel like we have the power to be in our full humanity together. But yeah, it can feel very dire, for sure. It is dire. It is. It's true.
Yeah,
You're
it's
right.
kind of the
You're right.
duality of the social media. Like,
There it
it
is.
gives people a voice. It helps every person be able to share what is going on in their lives, share these atrocities. But at the same time, social media is probably driving us farther apart than any other social construct in history.
Wow.
I know
It's
I
real.
think I've quoted them on the show in the past, but the Burrows, which is one of my favorite bands out of Greeley, Colorado, they have a really good line where they say, "I don't believe in the system, but I believe in the people."
Oh,
And I think that is true. Everywhere you
Yes.
look, there are good people in this country
Yes.
still. Maybe not the ones at the top, but hey, there are still good people out there.
That's real. And I think the other thing that also this process of making this film has helped me realize is the resilience of our ancestors, that we're like, oh my gosh, the world is doomed. But there are some extreme things that have happened to our ancestors that, like, they got through it. And it's like, okay, if we can feel that backbone behind us of like, yes, we are here. We have been put for a reason at this time. For us, this is our generation's calling of whatever we can do to do the change work of like having people remember why we're here, to be loving, to give and receive love, that we can do it. We can do it.
No, you're right. I think Justin and I have talked about it. Again, getting to work with kids and teens primarily, or pretty much only, there is a good reminder, like a lot of the times with like, sometimes the kids will do something. I'm just like, okay, we'll be okay eventually. Like things will be fine. Like these kids will, they come from certain households that believe and say certain things, and then they tell me like, yeah, I don't fuck with that at all. Like I don't believe any of that for a second. Or they grow up, experiencing one thing, and then they have a moment or an event that happens, and they're like, wow, like I had never considered this other point of view, this other perspective. Like this is actually really changing for me. Like this is different. And so you're right. I think I do have to remember our kids do make us feel like we're going to be okay. And I feel like we have a lot of those moments, Justin, where like we do get to experience that.
Kids make us feel like we're going to be okay until they're up all night screaming and crying. And then we're like, this is not okay.
Is that just your kid, Justin?
That's just my kid right now.
We didn't even say we're back. Justin and his amazing wife had a second baby recently. So welcome back, Justin. So we didn't even say that earlier.
We're going to do a whole episode on it. This one's for Colette.
I know.
True.
I know we've been talking about some serious stuff. And I want to ask you, perhaps the most serious question that we have is, who's got the better food, Palestinians or Mexicans?
Justin.
Oh, very hard. Oh, can I just say opt out, and can I say Indian is my favorite food?
That's hella funny. That's fair.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah. Okay, if I have to say it, Palestinian food is out of this world.
Okay. Yeah.
The home cooked dishes that are like the 5 hours in the making kind of things, like,
yes,
they are phenomenal. Yeah, I love it. But Mexican is like right there.
It's right there.
That was the hardest hitting question, Justin. Damn. Okay.
That was tough. It was tough.
Mm-hmm. I set you up too, and I made a little misdirection there.
Yeah. I was like, oh no, what's he about to ask? Like, oh my God. Like, what is the meaning of life? What are we all doing here?
Maybe a little more on the serious end, but I know we highlighted this one, and I wanted to ask. I think it maybe fits a little bit. Like as you've gotten older, you've talked about all the things that you've been through and try to work through. Like, how are you taking care of yourself now? Like, how are you prioritizing your, other than Indian, Palestinian, and Mexican food here and there? Like, how are you prioritizing yourself? How do you take care of yourself through all of this?
Yes, I think I have to bring it back to what I said in this process of learning how to be home within myself, is learning how to feel my feelings has been the number one thing. That learning how to cope with difficult emotions and to be able to stop self-sabotage, to be able to learn how to be in my own full dignity, how to feel belonging, within myself, how to create safety within myself and my own nervous system, that these things have like really been essential. And to do that, I actually had a somatic coach during my edit process, and learning about the power of somatics and like how a lot of trauma is stored in the body and processing through the body has been essential. And I'm actually getting my somatic coaching certificate right now because it was so transformational to be able to like pass it on to others too. So that's been really essential. I also got my yoga instructor certificate.
Nice.
Also, like yoga has been a beautiful practice. Prayer, meditation are essential in my daily routines. And I also recently got my Zumba instructor. I just went like, I had my third life crisis.
Let's go.
So if anyone wants to dance, there's also joy practices to dance in Zumba also. So yes, I think those are everything. And my dog. That's great. Yes. Plus dog. That's it. Yes, that's how I'm taking care of myself.
Love it.
Those are all super healthy things. And
thank you very much.
I love that you want to give back, and you got your certificates to be able to instruct those things too. Love it.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's the hardest path. I truly believe it's the hardest path to take, to be like, wait, I just have to sit and cry and like feel my sadness. Like, whoa, it's not easy. This is why we avoid it. It makes so much sense. And yet once you're able to do that and like, whoa, I survived that. Oh my gosh, the resilience comes deeper and deeper. So yeah, taking care is like not necessarily having everything be rainbows and butterflies all the time. And that's okay. Being okay with being human.
I've got, I think, one more question for you. If someone out there is struggling with that intergenerational trauma and they don't know where to start, they don't know what to do, maybe they need some advice, what would you tell them?
Yes. Well, I think for me, the biggest thing was journaling and learning how to self-reflect. That a lot of before we even touched the edit software, a lot of writing happened where I had to answer a lot of prompts of like, what is my family like? What am I like? Like just starting to really do that level of inner self-reflection and gaining more self-awareness, I think is like the first major part. And then also getting outside support. I really do. I believe in therapy. I believe in coaching. I believe in being able to get an outsider's perspective to support that process too. So if they're able to have like, even if I know some people are not able to afford it, but there's also an amazing like 12-step group that's called Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families, ACA, that is amazing, and it's free, and that you can like really start to dive into the inner child work and the shadow work that is so needed. To heal from the trauma.
Good advice. I love it.
Thank you.
I will do my last question as we're getting up on time. But before we do that, I do want to say I wrote this long paragraph. It's not that long, but I just want to say like thank you, because I think again, at one point, couple points, I'm sitting on the corner of the couch by myself watching it. My girlfriend's watching TV, slowly, quietly crying to myself because it was just so impactful and beautiful. And there's so many. This was an ode to you and to your family. This film and this documentary, and the trials and everything they've been through, and the healing that you guys are trying to do. But I also felt like there was a lot of it that was really relatable to me, and just seeing like my parents and my sister, and just there's a lot of crossover, and a lot of it felt the same. So
Wow.
Thank you for sharing this. Thank you for your years of work on this. We think it's beautiful. We're excited for it to continue to go out to the masses. So before my last question, I just wanted to say thank you, because there was a lot where half of us, you and I, is the same, being Mexican. The other half is different since you're Palestinian and I'm not. But there was so much where I was like, there's a lot of the same.
Yeah, so it's the child of immigrant story. I feel like it's all the same.
It really is. It really is. It really is. And it's like it's like a if you know kind of thing, because there's so much crossover. And so thank you for that. As we wrap up, like, where can our followers find you, your work, anything else they should know? We're gonna get your bio was already at the beginning, but like, tell us everything so they can find you and they can continue to follow you and your work.
For sure. before that, I just want to say thank you, Eddie, for that
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
warm message. That it means so much. And I am really inspired by mental health workers and those who are in this space that are really supporting, especially that you're all working with adolescents and teens. Like, that is where I wish I was able to have started this at whatever, like age 12, 13, 14. Like, what a difference that would have made. And that you are all like really being able to heal the next generation is really so inspiring. So thank you all for the work that you're doing too.
I will
It's
say,
tremendous.
I think Justin and I are the same way, that we wish we would have had that for us too when we were that age. I think that's where part of this comes from.
Yes. That it is essential work. And that, like, the last thing I just want to say too is that with this film, that it's a lot of it is about walls, and that there are walls, both, like, of course, these physical walls in Mexico and Palestine, but there's also the walls in us that we need to be able to shed and let go of. And that the work that you are all doing, and that what I'm trying to do with the film is like being able to let go of those walls so that we can all see each other for just being human beings all together. And like, how can we create that loving connection with one another? And so, yes, I just again, I'm just like so amazed and inspired that you all are doing that work to let the kids not have to have their walls up anymore. Like, how do we create that level of community? So beautiful. Okay. So yes, in terms of Traces of Hope, yes, I just had to put that there. Like, very important. I'm very grateful. And so for Traces of Home, we have all of our screening information on tracesofhome.com. And they can also follow us on Instagram. And we also have a newsletter that they can follow. And the other really exciting component is that we actually have an impact campaign alongside the film, which is doing trauma healing workshops with children of immigrants and refugees across the US. So we had our first one in New York, and we're doing the next one on Monday. And it has been transformational to do the healing work in community, to be able to see what are the things that are preventing us from being our most authentic selves and keeping us from being in our full power and light as humans. And so that's a really important component, that if people are interested in doing more work, like to see if they want to bring a workshop to their community, would be phenomenal too. And yes, I think that, and also that we also have our educational screening campaign too. So if any universities or high schools are wanting to screen too, we would love to partner with community orgs, universities, and high schools as well. Yes.
Cool. Love it. Get that word out.
Yeah. Anything you want included in the show notes, just get to us and we'll put them in there so our listeners can have them.
It's gonna be like there's gonna be an essay.
That's totally fine.
No. Just tracesofhome.com. That's it.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, Colette, thank you so much for being here. Justin,
you.
it was good to see you again, my friend. What an episode back. I love it. This is great.
This is awesome.
Thank you.
I was fangirling a little bit.
Yeah.
I was like, that's her. That's Colette. Oh my god.
No.
I saw you in the film. Holy shit.
Yeah.
We've been texting a little bit about it, so we've been looking forward to it, and we were stoked when we got the email reply back with the link to watch.
Thank you.
So yeah. Okay. If you've been here long enough, listeners, you know what's next. Apple Podcast, Spotify, our website, millenniummhc.com. Leave us a 5-star review. Leave us a comment, whatever. Follow us on social media, all at millenniummhc. Colette, again, thank you so much. We're excited for this one to come out. And remember, everyone, take care of y'all mentals.